Hi, this is Tom from tdjacobs.com, and I'm an evolutionary astrologer, a channel, an energy worker. Do all kinds of teaching and counseling and energy work for people. I'm starting a new thing starting in May of 2016, this month, which is having a featured charged crystal of the month. And I want to keep teaching about why I use the crystals and why so much of my time and energy the last couple of years, 2.5, 3 years, has been taken up in creating them, energetically charging them, and teaching, promoting, and selling them. And then I'll get into the Labradorite. But one of the main reasons is I can teach you through astrology, through affirmations, through channeling your spirit guides or ascended masters or angels. I can teach you how to see your life in a certain way. But to have an energetically charged crystal is having a disruption to your habits. Stones, crystals, do alter your consciousness. And having one that's energetically charged, the way I do it, augments and heightens the effects, and also changes in some ways the effects of certain stones, which I'll explain, especially with Labradorite. And it can interrupt the habits of your conscious self. So you can, one of my things over time has been, I think life isn't supportive or something like that. It's kind of a root chakra fear for different reasons. This happens and I can tell that's not love. The universe isn't supportive. It doesn't love me. So I can use affirmations for that. I can look at my astrology chart and understand what in my chart karmically, or in other words, what in many lives has led to the belief that life is not supportive, etc. And I can pound away at the affirmations every day. I can think about those astrological symbols. I can meditate on it. I can focus on being positive, whatever. But having an energetically charged crystal interrupts the habits that I've developed over the course of many lives, over the courses of many lives, being an energetic being with consciousness that exists across time. So these stones are about interrupting the status quo. You might know you need to change something. You might know that a certain belief you have doesn't work, but you might not really know how to change it, or you might know how to change it and have worked on it, but it's for some reason doesn't work. That's why I spend so much time and energy on these stones. I've noticed on my Facebook page, the work one, Evolutionary Astrology and Channeling with Tom Jacobs. Of course, astrology is in the title. And I noticed a few months ago, a lot of the posts are about crystals and stones. So I've wanted to address that beyond, an update on a particular stone or teaching about a particular one, to really help you understand that my work is in the evolution of consciousness, is to help you get to a place where you are vibrating more love, releasing the past, being more happy and creative, saying yes and no. And all those things are expressions of a healthy consciousness. And so these stones are interrupters for that. The idea of doing a featured stone for the month is to, from different angles in the blog and here in this video, to teach you some things about what the stone does and how the energetic charging process that I undergo or initiate changes it, and then how to actually work with it. I think in time there are going to be some MP3 courses to go with the different stones that I offer so that you can get the maximum benefit out of that. So there are 3 blog posts from earlier in this month about Labradorite, charged Labradorite as a featured stone of the month. I'm going to run through some of that info and maybe leave some out and put in some other info. First, I'll show you just a couple of examples of Labradorite. It's got this brilliant color that you can only see from certain angles. So then I turn it, it's a little duller. The idea is that it's a 6th chakra stone for the 3rd eye, and it helps with intuition. And normally, Labradorite will stimulate your intuition. The way I've charged them, it connects the 3rd chakra. First of all, it balances left and right brain, which can reduce stress and open things up. But once that happens, it connects it to the 3rd chakra in the gut, the belly, the seat of gut instinct. So it grounds your mind, and intuition can naturally open up. The idea of this, it's called labradorescence, named after it, and it's a layer of mineral in this feldspar matrix. Like if I would just show you, the color up close, you can see, well, no, I don't want you to see the gorgeous part. Hold on, let me find the right angle. No, yes. You can kind of see that kind of grayish, greenish thing that's not particularly spectacularly beautiful. That's the feldspar matrix, and a huge proportion of the Earth's crust is made of feldspar. It's a very common stone, and a very common mineral. When you have these layers of colorful things in here that produce that flash, what you're talking about is, let me use my mind to look at a situation. Then let me take 2 steps to the left and look at it from a different way. Let me consider this angle. Let me consider this angle. When you do that enough, then you see, now I can't find it. Then you get this like brilliant flash of color. The symbolism is to have a flash of insight about why something happens. When left and right brain are balanced and they are connected in the body, they are grounded to the 3rd chakra, which is one of the lower 3 chakras. It grounds your mind. Then intuition naturally opens up. Some of you might know that for years I used tiger iron to channel, which is counterintuitive. Tiger iron's for the lower 3 chakras. It's a lot of hematite, iron, for the root chakra. But when those lower 3 chakras are organized and healing and things are okay in those lower 3 chakras, 6th chakra naturally wants to open up. One of the effects of tiger iron. So I actually trained myself to use tiger iron to find the Ascended Master's frequency, the one I channel, the Jehudi, Thoth, Saint Germain, Merlin, all the same being. And so, I mean, these are more frankly, more beautiful than the tiger iron in many cases. But this, after I prepared all these tiger irons, Jehudi kept nudging me and saying, why don't you go to eBay and look at the Labradorite? And every time I would see this 55-pound bag of pieces, probably roughly this size, that could end up being tumbled, they're rough pieces, so they're not pretty yet, I would have this salivation. I would have to buy, and I was like, what's going on? And he says, because you're going to work with Labradorite next. So I've been working with this for a couple of years now. So I have a question about why something happens. My left brain self has an explanation, because life is not supportive, or because whatever. There's some kind of stupid belief that doesn't really serve me. It isn't based in truth. My right brain might not be able to come online because of the stress and fear of my left brain. So using a Labradorite, why does something happen? Why is this happening? This pattern, this thing that keeps coming to me. Why do I keep doing this thing? It kind of sabotages me. Or why do I not believe in myself? Or why do I resent this person suddenly? Or this thing this person says, why is it bothering me? Using this, carrying it around for weeks, you will at some point have a flash of intuition. You'll see why. Because it grounds your mind to your gut, and there's that connection there, and something will occur to you. The main thing about connecting, there are 2 things about connecting the 6th chakra to the 3rd that's so critical with the way that I energetically charge these. One is that if you are stressed, your left brain is dominant in that moment at least, but perhaps for months or years of your life, or decades, or many lifetimes, and you can't think clearly because you're not open. So taking the pressure off the mind by grounding it, giving it a physical foundation, giving your mind and its processes a physical foundation in your body, allows natural intuition to open up. You are naturally intuitive. That's one of the secrets here about being human. So I teach my students in the intuitive skills class, when we shift out of left brain being dictator for life, self-appointed dictator for life, then we have a chance to allow our natural intuition to come online and to learn to trust it. So these are fantastic. I just showed you this one. I'm going to give you a couple more examples, and this one's actually listed on my site for sale currently. This one is my own one of my personal ones, because I'm completely enamored with this little guy. I'll give you some other examples. Those I have made mostly by hand. Some other ones, this one I've somewhat done by hand. I've taken all the rough edges off, but this one side that's polished is I purchased it that way because I didn't know when I was starting this out if I could polish them and have them be pretty. So I kind of needed to learn about that. And here's another example of that, where these different shapes occur. And a lot of these are pretty thin, so they're good pocket pieces. And then there are what are called galets, which is a French word for tiny and cute. I don't know, but there's these little galets that have a different kind of. They're not always as gorgeous, but they're great pocket stones for that. Another example of a galet is here. You can kind of see the Labradorescence there. And then I do have a handful of spheres. Which I think are really, really interesting. Kind of weird to have in a pocket, but in a bag or on a desk and in your hand, they're fantastic to have. And those are the three kinds of shapes that I have. Oh, actually, I do have a couple of massage wands, which are interesting. And so the idea is to use it to, I'm massaging my hand. Right. Okay. So anyway, those are the kinds of pieces that I have on the site. They all have the same effect, though some, are more attractive to some people than others. I want to talk a little bit about what intuition is, because it can be for a lot of people kind of a mystery. If you don't feel intuitive, it might be a big mystery. The idea is that you have these not just two different parts of your brain, but you have different kinds of abilities to pick up on information. Thinking astrologically, you have Mercury, left brain, Jupiter, right brain, Neptune, kind of a psychic satellite dish that might absorb a bunch of things. You also have Chiron, the energy antenna, picking up energy and emotions, particular frequencies from other people, not the wide satellite dish of Neptune, but kind of a very specific antenna of one kind of frequency with Chiron. You have Venus, the ability to sense things in other people. You have all these different ways of sensing information. But most of us have become trained to focus on what comes from the linear, logical, rational left brain. So intuition is having access to more information than just your mind, multiple sources of information, and having a sense of what to do with it. Now, if your sixth chakra opens without being grounded, again, these are all charged to connect your sixth to your body, to your third. Intuition with gut instinct. If your sixth chakra opens, you might get some information, but you might not know what to do with it. Grounding it in the body helps everything. People are always amazed when they pick up, like they may be familiar with Labradorite, and then they pick up one of mine and they say, why is the energy moving down? Why am I, and it's because we're used to spirituality, metaphysics, and intuition being all about upper chakras. I have that with Oralite 23 too. I have it looks like amethyst, but it's got metallic inclusions in it, which Oralite 23. And a friend of mine, one of the three people I've met who are so fantastically attuned to energy that they can just pick up a ton. And so I'll sometimes have friends taste test things for me and say, hey, what do you think about this? And one of these guys saw one of these Oralite 23 pieces I was working with and said, what? He was confused. There was dissonance because it looks like it should be a high vibrating stone, but the energy is grounded. That's because what I'm doing, everything's about grounding. So anyway, as an intuitive, I might get information for you. You might have intuitive friends. You might have had a tarot reading or intuitive reading or astrology reading from somebody at some point in the past where they told you something that wasn't grounded in reality or didn't feel true to you, but felt true but wasn't right. Or maybe it wasn't for you, maybe it was for them. When we open up our sixth chakra and that intuition flows and mind is balanced and stuff happens, we sometimes don't know what to do with the information, and sometimes we don't have the sensitivity to use it well, correctly, or at the right time for the right reasons. I'll tell you, as a professional intuitive, I get information all the time, personally and professionally, that I do not share with people because it's not the right time. Because I'm grounded in my body, I can feel that. Think about what your gut is about. Your gut is a visceral yes or no. Tie your brain to your gut and operate from that place. Be much more clear, much more confident about using intuition and what is true. All the time I get information I don't share with people, all the time. In readings as well as personally. And we might, if you don't feel intuitive or don't trust it or don't identify that way, that might not make sense to you. That might seem really crazy because wouldn't it be so awesome to be intuitive? If you could get information, why wouldn't you use it? Well, if I'm in my body grounded, I can tell when somebody isn't ready to hear something. If I'm really grounded, then my sixth chakra is open enough that I can also connect with what feels true in that moment. This isn't about what I could say. This isn't about being clever or having a magical power. It's about being of service, right? So I surrender. This is another key. I surrender my mind to be of service if I can be helpful, if I can be of use. So in that moment of the reading, sometimes I hear the guides kind of talking amongst themselves or showing me something that I shouldn't say to the client, but I should understand. That's common. And the client's not being, cheated or short shrifted or something. It's really about the right time and the right place. Them telling me something I shouldn't explain might actually help me explain something I should explain in a more cogent way for me to understand where that person's coming from. So intuition is not magic. I think putting energy into crystals is totally magic, but intuition itself is not magic. It's having access to multiple streams of information and being present and engaged so you know what to do with it in the moment. So how I use Labradorite, I'll tell you this. Sometimes when I want to hear a client clearly, less for hearing spirit guides. For that I use other things, which I'll explore in other videos. But when I want to hear clearly, I might have a lot of things on my mind that day. And I might know that, I'm dealing with relationship stuff or something, or grief or healing or something, or having faith that life is always supportive, something like that. And I might know the client I'm going to talk to in 2 hours has some similar issue. Well, I want to make sure I'm not projecting. So I want to ground my brain into my body so that I can hear clearly without my bias, the fears and concerns and doubts of my left brain inserting themselves in this channeled conversation in which I'm intending to be of service. So I'm not untethered. I'm not leaking. I'm not inserting something that doesn't belong. I'm doing everything I can to let my mind serve that person on multiple levels. So it helps. So I use it to help me listen clearly, including when somebody calls me and says, "Hey, I'm having a hard time. I just need someone to really hear me and witness what I'm feeling," like a friend even, or family member. Okay, great. I'll grab the Labradorite. That's a less common usage. I used to use it quite a lot as I was fine-tuning that mental acuity, I guess you could say, that balancing left and right brain acuity and that practice. What I use it more often for now, because as I say, I'm a professional intuitive. I do it all the time when I talk to people. I'm listening on multiple levels and whatever. But what I most often use it for now is understanding the sources behind patterns. As I said, you have this, here, I'll show you a different piece. You have this let me turn it back and forth. Let me turn it back and forth. And then, oh, there's a flash of truth. There's a flash. Oh my God, I'm just trying to, there. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. So like you go, I just had to find the right vector here, the right axis. But yeah, it's like, I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. That feels true. That's the symbolism of the Labradorite. And so what I'll do is I'll say, why does this pattern keep happening? Why is this person saying this to me over and over again? What is the source of the thing I keep manifesting? Because everything that comes to me in my life is a manifestation of what I'm vibrating. So what is that? What is that? What is that? My left brain will have all these dumb, stupid, waste of time answers. People are jerks. Life's a jerk. It's got this like defeated, depressive thing. We can be stuck on those patterns, and most of our world is run by the linear logical mind with its judgments. But I need to vibrate higher. I need to be happier and healthier and not get stuck in the past. So I'll ask that question, why does this keep happening? And I'll say, I'm open to the answer. I'm open. And then I'll pick one of these up. And like I say, most of these are kind of thin, so they'll fit in a pocket. And then I'll carry it. Or I'll put it next to my pillow, but often I'll carry it. I'll put it in a pocket, go to the grocery store, whatever. Have it with me until I get insight. And it will be sudden flash, whether it takes a couple hours or it takes a few weeks. I mean, sometimes I think it's been up to 3 weeks where I've waited to get an answer, not sitting there being stressed about it. I'm just relaxed, open, and trusting that I will get an answer, because there is an answer for everything if we're open, and the charged Labradorite can help us relax open. Again, it's about taking the emphasis away from the stress of the linear logical mind, that left brain logician, logistical planner, scheduler, accountant part of you who's worried about numbers and time and how there isn't enough. There's actually always enough if you decide there is. So that's primarily how I use it now. And I've used that for relationship issues. I've used it for money issues. One example I've used recently, I think I talked about in a recent blog post, is after a certain point, maybe up to maybe a year or so ago, my mom started saying at the end of every phone call, "Be safe." And I felt that as fear. And part of me said, I don't want her fear. I am safe. I'm fine. Like, I've already decided. I've gone out of my way for years to decide that everything's fine and I'm safe. And I've created inner security because of that. So telling me to be safe is like, interrupting that process. And I rejected that, what I perceived as this vibration. So I said, why is that happening? And actually was using this one personally for a long time. And so I have it with me, put it in my pocket. And I talk to her once or twice a week sometimes, which some people think that's a lot, but whatever. I'm a Cancer South node. With Moon conjunct Mercury in the third. I love talking to my mom. And over the years, I've stepped out of being a mama's boy, but I totally love talking to my mom. She's one of my closest friends. And I would say, okay, why is she doing that? Talk to her a few days, a week later, she says it again. It still bothers me. I don't get it. I'm like, okay, I'm open to finding out why. I'm open to seeing the source of that, the energetic source. And I go through this process where I'm like turning it back and forth until I find that right angle, that particular angle where the truth shines through. And a couple weeks later, I was like, oh, right. In her 70s, she has had some falls. Safety's on her mind. She's just being nice. She's just trying to tell me she cares about what happens to me. The energy is not really fear, but I take it that way. It's kind of coming that way a little bit, but it's meant well. Okay, I can relax. You can just see that that's what it is. And then there are tons of things in other relationships where I've used the Labradorite for this. I require Labradorite as one of the 3 stones, charged crystals, for the Intuitive Skills 1 development course that I teach. And the reason is, as we get into this terrain of evaluating someone's biography and looking at health issues and emotional stuff and family and relationship and self-esteem, looking at the entire life history and how this person vibrates, what he or she believes, we need an interrupter to take away the power of the linear logical mind and ground it in the body so wisdom can happen. So this stone is one of the 3 I require for that class. It's incredibly important. So this is the featured stone of the month. You can check out the blog articles where I have more pictures of different stones that are there. And also on my site, if you go to my site, tdjacobs.com, you'll see a picture of a tiger iron, a banded gold, brown, red piece. It says charged crystals. Click on that and you'll be taken to the main crystals page, which has the listing of, I think at this time there are 7, soon there will be more like 9 or 10 kinds of crystals that are available. And the other thing is, everyone who gets an energetically charged stone from me gets email support indefinitely. I will say that Labradorite brings up the least amount of intense stuff of all the crystals that I offer. There are a couple that are kind of really low-key, low maintenance. Like the pink opal, people have emotional purges, and sometimes they write and say, hey, it's, just looking for a little support, and I offer a couple sentences, and I'm available for that. Labradorite, you can write me, but you won't need to. But everybody who gets a charged crystal has that opportunity. Thanks for your time and energy. I hope that this video was helpful, and I hope that you can be well served by all the time and energy I put into Labradorite and the other crystals. Go visit tdjacobs.com. Thank you.